A candle can burn with a clean, steady flame, or it can flare too high, too fast, until the wick turns black and the light begins to shake. Burnout often feels like that, not like a dramatic collapse, more like a quiet flicker you try to hide. You still show up. You still answer the message. You still smile on the call. But inside, something is smoking. And you can tell. The flame that used to feel like purpose now feels like pressure. Take a slow breath. Notice how your body responds to the word burnout. Where does it land in you? In Zen, we don't treat burnout as a personal failure. We treat it as a message, a bell, a small sound in the temple that says, "Come back." Not because you've done something wrong, but because you've been away from yourself for too long. Modern life teaches you to keep moving. Zen asks you to feel the movement, to sense the cost, to see clearly what you have been carrying, and then, gently, to put something down. Burnout is not only exhaustion, it is disconnection. Disconnection from your own rhythm. Disconnection from the simple dignity of being a human being who is allowed to have limits. If you've been told you are valuable only when you produce, then of course rest feels like guilt. If you've been praised for being strong, then of course you learn to hide your need. Burnout grows in the dark like a root under the floorboards. You don't notice until the house begins to tilt. Zen begins with a very plain truth. You are not a machine. You are not a task list. You are not a brand. You are not a constant signal that must stay available. You are a living field of breath, sensation, thoughts, and feelings. And if you ignore that field long enough, it doesn't disappear. It floods. It freezes. It burns. So let's speak about what you can do. Not in a generic way, not in slogans, in a way that touches the lived reality of modern burnout. The unread messages. The calendar that looks like a wall. The tired eyes in the bathroom mirror. The strange moment when you finally sit down and your mind still won't stop running, as if the body is resting but the soul is still at work. In Zen, there is a teaching that sounds almost too simple to help. Just this breath, just this step, just this cup in your hands. And yet, when burnout takes over, just this becomes almost impossible. Because burnout is the mind living in 5 places at once. It is the body in one chair, the mind in tomorrow morning, the heart in last week's mistake, and the nervous system scanning the room for danger that isn't even there. Burnout is the inability to be where you are, even when you desperately want to rest. Take a slow breath. Let your shoulders drop a little, even if only a little. Notice the weight you've been holding in your face. Many people don't realize they are clenching their jaw until they try to soften it. Burnout hides in the smallest muscles. Now, here is something Zen would like to offer you. Burnout is often not caused by doing too much. It is caused by doing too much while abandoning something essential. Sometimes you abandon sleep. Sometimes you abandon silence. Sometimes you abandon the right to say no. Sometimes you abandon the truth of how you feel. And sometimes you abandon your own meaning. You keep doing, but you no longer know why. The why becomes fog. The doing becomes heavy. And the spirit begins to thin out like air at high altitude. In old Zen stories, a student goes to a teacher and asks, "What is the path?" The teacher might answer, "Wash your bowl." Not as a joke, not as a dismissal, as a medicine. Because when the mind is split and inflamed, the most healing thing is to return to one simple action with full presence. To become whole again, not by adding more self-improvement, but by reuniting your attention with your life. You might be thinking, but my problems are real. My workload is real. My responsibilities are real. Yes, Zen does not deny this. Zen does not ask you to pretend you live on a mountain. Zen is for the marketplace too. Zen is for the subway. Zen is for the parent making lunch. Zen is for the nurse, the programmer, the teacher, the caregiver, the student, the one who is trying to keep the lights on. Zen doesn't escape life. Zen meets life without adding unnecessary suffering on top of it. So let's look closely at the particular suffering of burnout. Burnout says, "I have to." It rarely says, "I choose to." Even if you once chose it, Burnout makes it feel like a trap. Burnout also says, when I finish, then I can rest. But the finish line moves. It moves like a horizon. And each time you reach it, a new set of demands appears, and your body learns a painful lesson. Rest is always later. Eventually, later becomes never. Here is a Zen question, soft but sharp. What if rest is not a reward you earn? What if rest is a relationship you must protect? Like water, like shelter, like honesty. What if rest is not laziness, but wisdom? There is a story I want to tell you. It's not an ancient one carved on temple wood. It's a modern one. Maybe it is yours. There was a person who used to love mornings. They loved the quiet. They loved the first light on the floor. They loved the feeling of possibility. Then life began to speed up. A new job, or a bigger role, or a new set of expectations. Messages arrived earlier. Meetings multiplied. The phone began to feel like a leash. Even on days off, they reached for it like a reflex, thumb scrolling, mind searching for something it couldn't name. At first, they said, "This is normal. This is adulthood." They said, "Everyone is tired." They said, "I just need to push through this season." And the season turned into a year. The year turned into a way of living. Their body began to change. Not in dramatic ways. Small ways. Waking up already tired. Forgetting simple words. Feeling irritated by ordinary sounds. Losing the ability to enjoy things that used to feel sweet. They would sit with a friend and feel far away, like they were behind glass. They would watch a sunset and feel nothing, then feel guilty for feeling nothing. And that guilt became another task to manage. One evening, they sat on the edge of the bed and realized they were afraid of tomorrow. Not because something terrible was happening, but because the pace had become unbearable. The mind was constantly bracing, constantly preparing, constantly defending. It wasn't a life anymore. It was a continual emergency. In Zen, we would say their nervous system had become a battlefield, and they had forgotten there was another way to live. So they did something small, not heroic, small. They turned off the phone for 10 minutes. Only 10. At first it felt like withdrawal. Their mind produced images of disaster. Someone might need me. Something might happen. I'm falling behind. My work will pile up. My world will collapse. But nothing collapsed. 10 minutes passed. The room was still there. Their breath was still there. Their body, which had been ignored for so long, began to speak in sensation. It said, "I'm tired." It said, "I've been holding my belly tight all day." It said, "I miss being safe." Take a slow breath. If you can, let your belly soften on the exhale. Not forced, just a little permission. That small moment became a doorway. Not a cure, but a doorway. Because Zen does not fix burnout the way a mechanic fixes a machine. Zen restores your intimacy with reality. And reality includes your limits. Reality includes your fatigue. Reality includes your need for quiet. Reality includes the truth that your life is happening now, not after you finish everything. Here is the core Zen teaching for modern burnout. In plain language, stop fighting your experience. Start listening to it. Burnout often worsens because we argue with our own feelings. We say, "I shouldn't be tired." We say, "Other people handle more." We say, "I'm weak." We say, "I don't have time to fall apart." But the body does not respond well to being shamed. The nervous system does not heal by being bullied. The heart does not reopen by being scolded. Zen invites a different approach. It says yes, not yes as surrender to injustice, and not yes as permission for harmful systems to continue. Yes as a clear acknowledgement of what is already here. Yes, I am tired. Yes, I am overwhelmed. Yes, I am stretched thin. This yes is not defeat. It is honesty. And honesty is the beginning of peace. Notice this moment. If burnout has been living in you, you might have made it your identity. "I am burned out." Zen would gently reframe it. Burnout is not who you are. Burnout is a condition, like weather, like a storm system. It moves through your body and mind. It has patterns. It has causes. It can change. Now let's get specific about what you can do. And let's keep it simple enough to actually practice. First, recognize the hidden fuel of burnout, the constant mental next, the next email, the next task, the next improvement, the next crisis, the next thing you must prepare for. Zen calls this chasing. The mind chases the future, hoping to find safety there. But safety does not live in the future. The future is a concept. Safety lives in your present contact with reality. Your feet on the ground, your breath moving, your eyes seeing one thing at a time. So one practice is to interrupt next with now. Not all day, not forever, just in small, repeatable moments. When you wash your hands, feel the water. When you drink tea, feel the warmth. When you open a door, notice the simple act of entering. These are not cute mindfulness tricks. These are stitches that repair the torn fabric of attention. Because burnout is torn attention, and attention is life. Second, give your nervous system a predictable refuge. Modern burnout often comes from unpredictability, not only in external events, but in internal demand. You never know when you will stop working. You never know when your mind will allow you to rest. You never know when the next message will arrive. The body hates that. The body wants rhythm. Zen monasteries are built on rhythm. Wake, sit, work, eat, rest, not as rigid control, but as a way to hold the mind gently, the way a riverbank holds water so it can flow instead of flooding. You can create a small riverbank in your day, a short ritual that tells your nervous system you are allowed to settle. It could be the same chair at the same time, the same cup, the same candle, the same quiet breath before you check your phone. The mind learns through repetition. The body trusts what is consistent. Take a slow breath. If you can, imagine one small ritual you could keep for 7 days. Something so small it feels almost silly. Silly is good. Silly is doable. Burnout doesn't need grand plans. Burnout needs gentleness that repeats. Third, practice the Zen art of enough. This is difficult in modern culture. We are trained to escalate. More productivity, more growth, more speed, more optimization. Even our rest becomes a project. We want the perfect morning routine, the perfect supplements, the perfect meditation streak. Zen smiles softly at this and says, enough. Enough means you learn to stop adding. You stop adding tabs in your mind. You stop adding obligations that are secretly built from fear. You stop adding the belief that if you just do a little more, you will finally feel worthy. In Zen, worthiness is not earned. It is assumed, not as entitlement, but as a basic dignity. You were born. You breathe. You feel. You belong to this world. That is enough to deserve care. Now, burnout is also a form of grief. This may surprise you, but many people are burned out because they have lost something without noticing. They lost their sense of play. They lost time with themselves. They lost spaciousness. They lost the feeling of being a person rather than a performance. And when you lose something precious, the heart responds with grief. Zen does not rush grief. Zen sits with it, like sitting with a friend in the rain under a small umbrella, not trying to fix the sky. So if you feel sadness under your burnout, you are not broken. You are human. Let that sadness be respected. Let it speak. Sometimes it says, I miss my life. Sometimes it says, I want to feel again. Sometimes it says, I can't keep living this way. Listen, there is another story, older this time. A monk was asked, what is the secret of Zen? The monk answered, ordinary mind. The questioner was confused. If it is ordinary, why do we seek it? The monk said something like, because you keep leaving it. Burnout is leaving ordinary mind. It is leaving the simple experience of being alive and living instead inside a pressure chamber of thoughts. Zen brings you back, not to a fantasy, but to ordinary mind. The mind that hears birds. The mind that tastes rice. The mind that can look out a window and simply look. Practical application now, very real. When you are burned out, your mind will demand big solutions. Quit everything. Move away. Start over. Sometimes big changes are necessary. But Zen begins by checking something smaller and more immediate. Are you breathing shallowly? Are you skipping meals? Are you consuming information late at night that keeps your nervous system alert? Are you trying to carry feelings alone that were never meant to be carried alone? Burnout often improves when you stop treating your body like a vehicle and start treating it like a home. Try this right now. Take a slow breath. Feel the inhale arrive like soft light. Feel the exhale leave like a gentle tide. Ask yourself, quietly, what do I need in this moment? Not what you should need. Not what would look impressive. What you need. Maybe the answer is water. Maybe it's a stretch. Maybe it's a boundary. Maybe it's to tell someone the truth. I'm not okay. That sentence can be a bell too. Zen also teaches something about boundaries that is often misunderstood. People think boundaries are walls. Zen boundaries are more like gardens. A garden boundary does not exist to punish the outside world. It exists to protect what is growing inside. If you are burned out, something inside you is trying to grow back. Energy, clarity, joy, and it needs protection. So what can you do? You can practice one clean no per day. One, not as aggression, as care. It might be no to an extra commitment. No to checking email in bed. No to a conversation that always drains you. No to just one more when your body is asking for sleep. A clean no is a sacred thing. It is a way of saying yes to your life. Now let's talk about attention, because burnout is also an attention sickness. We live in an era where attention is hunted. Notifications, feeds, news cycles, endless content. Even helpful content can become noise if you consume it in the same frantic way you consume everything else. Zen trains attention like you train a lantern to shine steadily. Not because you want to be special, because attention is how you touch reality. And reality is where peace lives. If your attention is scattered, peace feels far away. If your attention is gathered, peace becomes close, even in a difficult life. Here is a gentle practice. The next time you feel the impulse to switch tasks, pause for one breath. Just one. Feel the breath. Then choose. You may still switch tasks, but now you are choosing rather than being yanked. That small moment of agency is medicine for burnout. Burnout also has a spiritual dimension that many people sense but don't name. It is the feeling that your days are being spent, but your life is not being lived. The feeling that you are surviving instead of inhabiting. Zen does not give you a grand philosophy to cover that ache. It gives you presence. And presence is what makes life feel like life again. You might ask, but what about my responsibilities? Zen does not take them away. It changes how you meet them. In Zen, you can do the same work with a different heart. You can answer the email with one breath. You can attend the meeting with your feet on the ground. You can cook dinner as if it matters, because it does. And when you cannot do it with calm, you can at least do it with honesty. This is hard. Honesty relaxes the inner struggle. Let's return to the candle. If you cover a candle with a glass, it will run out of oxygen. Burnout is often a lack of oxygen. Not literal oxygen, but emotional oxygen. Space, silence, support, meaning, play, nature, the feeling of being held by something larger than your to-do list. So add oxygen, not with dramatic gestures, with small openings. Maybe you open a window for 5 minutes in the morning and let the air touch your face. Maybe you walk around the block without a podcast, without a phone call, just hearing the world. Maybe you sit in your car before going inside and breathe, not scrolling, just breathing. Maybe you step outside at night and look at the sky for 10 seconds. 10 is enough to remember you live in a vast world, not just in your schedule. Notice this moment. What has been your oxygen lately? What has been your glass? Zen also teaches compassion for the self that is burned out. Not self-pity, compassion, the kind you would offer a friend who has been carrying too much. If your friend said, "I'm exhausted," you wouldn't say, "Try harder." You might say, "Of course you are. You've been doing so much." You might say, "Come sit." You might make them tea. You might let them cry without fixing it. Can you offer even a small fraction of that to yourself? Burnout is often made worse by inner violence. The harsh voice, the constant evaluation, the shame for not being energetic, the shame for not being grateful. But gratitude cannot be forced. Gratitude grows naturally when the nervous system feels safe, when the heart feels seen. So the Zen strategy is safety first, softness first. The flame steadies when the wind calms. Now, a deeper teaching. Zen says that suffering comes from clinging and aversion. Clinging to what we want, aversion to what we fear. Burnout contains both. We cling to the image of being capable, being needed, being successful. And we feel aversion to rest, because rest makes us face feelings we've avoided. In stillness, the grief appears. The loneliness appears. The confusion appears. The question, is this the life I want, appears. So we keep moving, not because we love movement, but because we fear stillness. Zen invites you to make friends with stillness. Slowly, kindly, like approaching a shy animal, not grabbing it, not chasing it, just sitting nearby. Try this. 1 minute a day. Sit somewhere. No achievement. No perfect posture. Just sit. Feel the weight of your body. Feel your breath. Feel the room. Thoughts will come. Let them come. You are not failing when you think. Thinking is what minds do. The practice is to notice you are thinking and return to the breath. Over and over. Like returning a wandering child to a safe home. That 1 minute is not nothing. It is a vote. A vote for a life that includes you. Practical application again. Burnout often demands that you simplify, not as a trend, as survival. Zen loves simplicity because simplicity reduces friction. It reduces decisions. It reduces the mental clutter that makes everything feel harder. Look at your day like a room. Where's the mess? Not moral mess. Just clutter. Too many commitments. Too many inputs. Too many open loops. Choose one small corner to clear. 1. Maybe it's your morning. Maybe it's your bedtime. Maybe it's your lunch break. Don't try to fix the whole house. Clear one corner. Sit there. Breathe there. And please remember this. Simplifying may disappoint some people. Zen bows to that truth. You cannot be burned out and also meet every expectation. Someone will want more from you than you can give. If you keep giving it, you will disappear. So the question becomes gentle but real. Who do you abandon when you try to please everyone? Often, the answer is yourself. Take a slow breath. Feel the quiet strength of that question. Now we move toward emotional resolution. Because understanding alone does not heal burnout. Burnout is not only cognitive. It is cellular. It is emotional. It is spiritual. Healing begins when you stop seeing yourself as a problem to solve and start seeing yourself as a being to care for. A tired being. A worthy being. Imagine the burned out part of you as someone sitting at the edge of a long road with dust on their clothes. They have walked for miles without stopping. They are not lazy. They are not weak. They are simply at the edge of what they can do alone. Zen would not lecture them. Zen would sit beside them, offer water, share silence. Let them breathe. You can do that for yourself, even if no one else does. Not as a replacement for support, but as a beginning. And yes, sometimes burnout is telling you to change something external. A workload, a boundary, a job, a relationship. Zen is not passive. Zen is clear. But clarity comes best when you are not in panic. So first, calm the flame. Then, from that calmer place, listen for what must change. When you are burned out, your mind may say, I have no choice. Zen asks, is that true? Sometimes there are fewer choices than we wish. But there are often more choices than burnout allows you to see. Burnout is tunnel vision. Zen is wide vision. Maybe you can ask for help. Maybe you can reduce one commitment. Maybe you can negotiate a deadline. Maybe you can stop volunteering for extra work out of fear. Maybe you can create a transition ritual from work to home, so your mind doesn't keep working in your living room. Maybe you can take one day to do nothing productive and let your nervous system reboot. And if you cannot change much right now, Zen still gives you something. It gives you the power to return to one breath, one sip of water, one honest moment, one gentle boundary, one small act of self-respect. These are not small in the world of burnout. They are revolutionary. Let's close with a final grounding thought. Zen is often described as awakening, but awakening does not always arrive like thunder. Sometimes it arrives like a cup set down quietly on a table. It arrives when you realize you have been living as if you must earn the right to exist. It arrives when you stop chasing the next thing long enough to feel your own breath again. It arrives when you realize peace is not a distant mountaintop. Peace is a way of meeting what is here, with less fight, with more tenderness. So if you are burned out, please hear this as gently as possible. You do not need to become a new person. You do not need to fix your entire life overnight. You do not need to meditate perfectly. You do not need to read 100 books. You need to return. Return to the body. Return to the breath. Return to the one moment you can actually live. Take a slow breath. Feel it enter. Feel it leave. Let the exhale be a soft unclenching. Let it be a small promise. I am allowed to be human. And if you carry one thing with you after this video, let it be this simple Zen kindness. When the flame starts to shake, you do not blame the candle. You protect it from the wind. You give it air. You lower the flame. You let it burn steadily again. You do that because you want light to remain. You are that light, not in a dramatic way, in an ordinary way, in a way that matters. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for trying to take care of your life. May your next breath be a little softer. May your next step be a little less rushed. May you remember that you can begin again right where you are. Today, may you rest in the quiet strength of enough.